Welcome to Ghouls Night Out with your hostesses, Brandee and Jodi. Hello, beautiful ghouls. Thank you for listening. This is Brandee. I'm here with my sister, Jodi.
Hello.
So, I was trying to find stuff to talk about at the beginning of the show like I normally do, and there was just a lot of shit in the news this week. It was horrible. Like the piece of shit that murdered his pregnant wife and two young daughters.
I don't think I heard about. You know what? I think I remember seeing like posts or something about it, but I didn't read it.
They were missing for a while. And
who was missing?
The
whole family?
No, not him.
Oh.
Just the pregnant wife and the two, I think they were like 3 and 5 young baby daughters. And yeah, the search went on for them, and he ended up confessing. He did an interview for a local news channel, and he was like, trying to explain the timeline of, she went missing. I don't know where she is. And he ended up confessing. He killed them all.
What a dick.
Yeah, it was just shit like that.
I don't understand people like that.
I know.
Get it.
It's horrible.
How can you kill innocent little babies?
I know. I can't, there's no way I can wrap my head around that at all. Then in Indiana, there was a man that had raped, stabbed, and then ate parts of his ex-girlfriend. So there's that piece of shit. There were like 70 plus people that overdosed in a park one night.
Like on what?
I don't.
Like, did they do it on purpose?
I don't
like
think
a cult
so.
Thing, or?
I don't think so. No, it was just like this party that all these people. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't want to look into it. I was kind of fed up with the news this week. It was just horrible. Everything that I read was horrible. And I didn't really look into it that much. I just saw that there was a ton of people that overdosed in a park one night. So I was just assuming that they had gone to this party and maybe the drug that they were on or they had all taken was laced maybe with something or no good. I have no idea. But I mean, that's terrible. And then an infant was rescued from a car where his parents had overdosed in the front seat. It's terrible.
That's nice.
Everything that I had read, it was just horrible. But I did find a couple of things. Did you hear? I think it was in California. And like I said, I'm sorry, I kind of didn't really look into it much. But they found there was a dead body in a pillar in front of a grocery store. In California, I think it was California.
I caught like the tail end of a news story about that, or it was on Facebook or something.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Facebook. I'm pretty sure it was Facebook. But yeah, I guess they had chased this guy that I think it was robbery of some sort. So they were chasing this guy, and he got up on the roof of this grocery store and I don't know, somehow fell inside this pillar and died. And they couldn't find him anymore. They were chasing him and they couldn't find him, so I guess they figured that he got away.
Yeah.
But no, he was in this pillar thing, and this ooze started coming out of the pillar and this foul smell. So this poor guy that they hired to find out what the smell was started removing these bricks from this pillar.
World's worst job.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's bad. But yeah, they found the guy inside and he was oozing. So not good. And someone, I think it was on Facebook, someone was like, "Are people trying to drink that too?"
Oh, that's great.
I know.
Dumbasses.
Oh gosh, so that was one story I came across. So last week, last week we were talking about the documentaries, like the creepy documentaries.
Yeah.
One of them is the Blackwell ghost. And
Yes.
I had watched this. It's been a while now since I've watched it, and I suggested it to you, and you watched it as well, didn't you? Yeah. It is so good. It
is
creeped
really
me out.
good. And I was on Amazon Prime probably last weekend or something, trying to find something to watch. So I was looking through all the documentaries and stuff, and there's a Blackwell Ghost 2 coming out.
Yay! That is so exciting to me, because
I was like, oh my gosh, I think it comes out at the end of August, maybe.
Oh, so soon.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yay.
But
that makes me very
I was like, dang it, I can't watch it right now.
So impatient.
I know, I am.
But yeah, that was the one that because I hadn't watched anything like that in a long time. And at the time, I found it was the full documentary on YouTube, which I don't think you can find it there anymore. But I just happened to come across it, and I watched it, and it was the first thing that I had watched in a long time that, like, I was speechless. It was so good. I loved it.
That's how I used to be when, Ghost Hunters first came out.
Yes.
That
was the same feeling I got.
Now there's so many that I'm just desensitized.
Absolutely.
They're not exciting anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, these documentaries, like we said last week, there's the Sir No Face and then Demon House were both really good.
Yeah.
And then Blackwell Ghost.
Definitely.
Was really good too.
Yeah, so look that up, and like we said, I think it's on Amazon Prime. I don't think it's on Netflix.
No, I don't think it is.
But yeah, look up the Blackwell Ghost if you guys are looking for a documentary to watch, because it's really good. It'll give you chills. It may not be too creepy, but I really loved it.
It's not, horror movie.
No, but it seems very genuine.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking for out of these documentaries.
Yeah.
I want people to at least make me think that they're telling the truth.
Yeah, obviously we don't know.
Yeah.
For sure, but
which it's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just
as long as you know that.
Exactly. Okay, so another thing I was talking about, I think it was last week, how creepy phone calls are to me.
Yeah.
And, like...
Keep going.
You know what I'm talking about, because it was on Two Girls, One Ghost, right?
I don't know. It might have been.
Because you liked it. The story that I'm getting ready to tell.
Yes, I think that's the one I was trying to post, but I couldn't figure out how.
Okay, so listen to this. This is so fucking awesome.
This is cool.
It was on Two Girls, One Ghost podcast group. So again, it's a good podcast if you guys don't know. And it was on the Pueblo Chieftain. It was an article by John Pompia. I don't know. Anyway, so dead silence on the line, with Pueblo police officers following up on an unexplained call by responding to its source, a local funeral home. Dark and shuttered without a soul around, on the night shift, police had to be prepared for anything, including a possible phantom in the dead of the night. Recently, the department's communication center received at 3:30 a.m., which that's the witching hour, right? A 911 hang-up call that originated from a local funeral home. Per protocol, a dispatcher called the number back, and the call was picked up, but the dispatcher's attempt to initiate a conversation was only met with silence.
That is the part that freaks me out. Someone
answered.
picked up the phone.
Oh my gosh.
And there's nobody there.
Oh my gosh. So, Captain Tom Rummel said, "We're not sure what happened." He first broke the bizarre occurrence via Twitter. He said, "Sometimes line trouble will cause what we call an abandoned 911. But the weird thing about it was the fact that the dispatch called the number back and it was picked up. No verbal response, though," he said. As the dispatcher called at an after-hours contact number associated with the funeral home and left a message. Obviously, nobody's going to be there, right? Officers were dispatched to the funeral home and discovered nothing amiss. At least not visibly. Apparently everything was okay, because as far as I know, nobody was dispatched back there after daylight, Rummel added. Probably just line trouble, right? Let's go with that, he said.
Yeah, let's go with that.
But then there's this. In folklore, the witching hour is the time of night associated with supernatural events. Unearthly creatures are thought to appear and to be at their most powerful. In the Western Christian tradition, this witching hour is between 3 and 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. So funny. I mean, that would creep me out so bad. And that is, I mean, the fact that it picked up.
That's what creeps me out. I mean, it's okay. They get a phone call, phone lines and stuff.
Yeah, you never know. It could be a glitch.
Exactly. But when you call it back and someone picks up, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. So that was creepiest story ever. And I saw that and I was like, okay, I have to tell this because I was just talking about how these phone call things creep me out.
Yeah.
Another really, really cute story I came across. This girl had tweeted, I think, posted on social media of some sort. It says, before Mom passed away, she gave my dad strict instructions to water the plants in the bathroom. He's been religiously watering them and keeping them alive. They look so amazing, he decided to take them to his new home, only to discover they're plastic. I can hear my mom chuckling.
Oh, that's great.
I know.
He thought he was doing so good.
Aw, I know. I thought that was hilarious. She was
cussing her out.
She was probably like, you've got to promise me. Please promise me right now you will water my plants in the bathroom.
She was laughing her ass off up in heaven. That's great.
I know. So that was all I came across that was even, any interesting and not just horrible terribleness that I didn't want to talk about that because I'm really going to bum everybody out later too. So, yeah.
That sucks.
Okay, so yeah, that was my
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, before you bum us out, let's hear some ghost stories.
Okay. Can deal with that.
I'm going to do highway ghost encounters.
Yay. That's awesome. I love, driving in the middle of the night, you never know what you're going to come across.
I know.
So creepy.
And some of these I'm sure people have heard of.
Okay.
Like the first one is Resurrection Mary. I mean, who hasn't heard that story?
Yeah.
But if you haven't, the ghost of Mary Brandee is said to ask for rides from strangers only to disappear in front of their eyes.
Oh my God.
Brandee was a young Polish girl who died on March 10th, 1934 in a car accident while coming home after a night of dancing from the O. Henry Ballroom. Many people report stories of her walking around barefoot in a white dress along Chicago's Archer Road, also called Interstate 171. Brad Steiger, I think that's how you say that, author of Real Ghosts, Restless Spirits, and Haunted Places, said, as people drive her home, she asks them to stop in front of the cemetery gates on Archer. She gets out of the car, runs across the road, and dematerializes at the gate.
Oh my gosh.
In May 1978, Sean and Jerry Late reported almost crashing into Resurrection Mary driving late one night. They saw a blonde woman in a white gown and slammed on the brakes, only to have her vanish into the cemetery. Most people report seeing Resurrection Mary during stormy or snowy nights. Though she isn't affected by weather conditions, ghost hunter Richard Crowe said it might be raining cats and dogs, but Mary will be completely dry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There is no way.
That's not that far away.
Where is it?
Said? Chicago?
Oh.
I think that's where it said. Yeah. Chicago's, it's on Archer Road.
Yeah, I've heard that story so many times, but
I know.
Cannot imagine seeing that. That would scare the shit
the one
out of
I
me.
remember hearing is she's like hitchhiking and people will pick her up.
Yep.
And they'll ask her to take them to a house.
Yeah.
And when they pull up, the driver turns around and there's nobody in the car anymore.
Yeah.
So they go ahead and go up to the house, and whoever answers the door, he asks for, this girl. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, she's been dead for, years or whatever.
No.
So I'm sure there's all kinds of stories about Resurrection Mary.
And that's creepy because, the more stories there are, the more, you can't really deny.
Exactly. I'm sure some of them are, made up or whatever, but it has to start from somewhere, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and if a lot of, again, if you can only hear things so many times before you start believing it. I mean, and I've heard about that for years.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah.
The next one's called The Vanishing Hitchhiker. On Easter Sunday, 1968, a girl named Marie Charlotte Rowe was killed in an auto accident near Uniondale, South Africa. The N9 highway is said to be haunted by her spirit. The first reported sighting of Rowe's spirit was on the Easter weekend of 1976, and since then, many have reportedly seen her. Andre Coetzee shared a story with the Daily Breeze in 1980. I was riding near the Barambas turnoff, the site of the fatal accident a decade ago, when I felt my hair stand on end inside my crash helmet, and someone or something put its arms around my waist from behind. There was something sitting on my bike. Nearby cafe owner Jeanette Meyer said motorcyclists frequently relay a similar story of picking up a blonde woman who later vanishes.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine being on your momotorcycle, driving, and all of a sudden feeling someone put their arms around you? Oh, God, I don't like that.
No, I don't like that either.
The most haunted road in Scotland. The A75, a major highway in Scotland, is said to be teeming with supernatural entities. Mostly ghostly, founder Kathleen Croney told BBC there have been screaming hags, eyeless phantoms, and a menagerie of unearthly creatures witnessed on this famous road.
Oh my gosh.
One truck driver in 1957 reported swerving around a couple walking across the highway only to see them dematerialize a few minutes later. Regular sightings of groups of dejected, bedraggled people and haggard, elderly women are said to occur.
Oh my gosh.
Did I say that right? Bedraggled? Is that a word?
I have no idea. It's not a word in my vocabulary. But
I've heard it and I've seen it before. I don't know if I've heard it. I don't know if I said it right.
It sounds right to me.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
The Stocksbridge Monk. Local lore has it that an excommunicated monk still roams the most haunted road in Britain, the Stocksbridge Bypass. He fell out of favor with the church and was buried in an unconsecrated grave in the area. Several children also fell down mine shafts in these parts and suffered untimely deaths.
Oh, no.
In 1987, construction along the road was halted because workers reported seeing and hearing strange phenomena. 2 security guards claimed to have seen groups of children dancing in a circle. Later, they witnessed a hooded figure watching them and a torso pressing up against the car window. No.
Just a torso?
Just the torso. Well, if you think about it, if you're sitting in your car and someone's standing, all you would see was their torso.
Okay, yeah, I totally get that. But why pressing?
I don't know. It's creepy. I don't know.
I'm trying to picture that.
Look at this. Look what I got.
That's just a very weird
So you roll your window down, poke them. Get out, get away.
That feels very dumb.
Pillsbury Doe boy ghost. Annie's Road. Riverview Drive in Tatawa, New Jersey, is cursed by a tragic figure. Legend has it poor Annie was ousted from a car on prom night after a brutal fight with her boyfriend.
Oh.
After walking along the road, she spotted a pickup truck and waved for help, but the truck driver didn't see her and hit her.
Oh, shit.
Her dress became entangled with the truck and her face was pared off as she was dragged along the road. For years after, a large blood stain appeared on the spot where she died every year until 2000, when the road was repaved. To this day, people report electronics failure along this highway.
That is a really bad prom night.
Yeah.
That poor girl.
I don't like that.
That's awful.
Where it said it pared her face off.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, no.
And then, of course, this next one everyone's heard of, Highway 666.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that people cruising through a satanically named highway would report creepy encounters. Originally called Highway 666 in 1926 because it was the 6th branch of Route 66. It has since been changed in most places to Highway 191. Tales of people seeing demon dogs, evil skinwalkers, trucks on fire, and shapeshifters had been reported along the road.
Oh, shit.
Native American lore also tells of unwanted passengers appearing in the back seats of cars along the route.
No!
Locals recommend you drive at your own risk, and whatever you do, don't stop for hitchhikers.
Oh, my gosh. Taryn asked me what a hitchhiker was this week.
Why?
I said something about never pick up hitchhikers for some reason. I don't know. She's like, what's that? So I had to tell her, I know.
You need to educate that girl.
Well, I did.
Good. It's like, hitchhikers are no.
Yeah, I was like, you never pick up a hitchhiker and you never hitchhike.
Yes, exactly. Mount Misery and Sleepy Hollow. Less than a mile apart, Mount Misery and Sleepy Hollow in New York boast some of the eeriest ghost stories ever shared. Tales of Mary's grave, located on Sleepy Hollow Road, and the ghost of a police officer missing the back of his head are just a few of the unexplained phenomena to occur in the region.
Oh.
Other legends include teens who hung themselves along the road and continue to haunt the area.
Oh.
But these phantoms aren't all evil. There's also a child ghost who was involved in an auto accident and sticks around to prevent others from facing the same fate.
I wonder how many teenagers hung themselves on the side of the road.
I know, that's when I was doing, the copy and paste thing. I was like,
yeah.
Why? In my mind, I just see this road with
that's exactly
teenagers hanging on, all the way down like Garland or something. I was like, what the hell?
Oh, that's what I pictured too, honestly. It was like, damn, how many are we looking at here? That reminded me of that Suicide Forest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like dead teenagers everywhere. That's awful.
Yeah, that Suicide Forest is just weird.
I know. Creeps me out.
Yeah.
We should, since nobody's emailing us, we might.
Hint.
GhoulsNightOutPodcast at gmail.com. I know, I almost thought maybe we should threaten to whine again.
Oh.
'Cause last time we whined, we got Annie's email.
Yeah. I can whine.
We'll do it. Well, we ain't scared.
All right. Highway Bride of India. In Mumbai, India, a stretch of highway between SV Road and Marv Beach is said to be haunted. The spirit of a woman in bridal dress lurks around these parts. Nearby hotel owners and pedestrians confess to hearing her screams at night. Legend has it a newly married woman was having problems with her family paying the dowry. Her husband took her on a long drive and jumped out of the car. Shocked by his actions, she died in the accident too and began to haunt the highway.
Oh, shit.
Why I don't...
What?
Why would someone be driving and then just jump out of the car? The driver.
He obviously, 1, didn't want to be in there anymore. 2, didn't care what happened to him and did not care what happened to her. So, I think it was a...
like a murder... Well, that would be...
does it say...
Suicide murder.
Yeah. Well, if she got her shit together in time, she probably could have avoided it. But, if she was like,
yeah,
what the fuck just happened? And then crash. It's awful. Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's all the highway ghost encounters that I have.
So, that's fine. How are we doing on our diet?
Oh.
We haven't talked about it. Did I tell you I've been exercising and eating, kind of restricting what I eat finally. It's like I said, there's an abundance of candy where I work and it all stares at me. So I was eating that. So I stopped that. And, I would come home and snack and eat chips and stuff. I stopped doing that. So, no shortcuts anymore. And then I did 5 days last week and then 4 days this week of exercising.
That's good.
So.
I haven't done any.
Jodi, are you serious?
I'm serious.
I'm going to win $25. I'm going to win $25.
Well, I keep forgetting you have my yoga mat.
Okay.
And I keep forgetting to have you bring it over. And I'm
too
lazy to go get it. Even though you live
that's a great way to start a diet.
20 seconds away. I could walk there in seriously 2 minutes.
It's fine. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I have been watching what I'm eating though.
That's good.
I've gotten a little bit better with that.
That's good. That's a start. Did you say for me to do the
sad one or whatever?
Okay,
first.
so I'm gonna bum us all out because this is what I'm interested in, and I'm sorry if you guys don't agree, but I have morbid curiosity, and I'm doing people describe horrible things that they witnessed that traumatized them.
Oh no!
But I don't know why.
I'm interested in it too.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better. Okay, this is fucked up shit. So
okay,
we're all gonna be bummed out for a little bit. But
all right.
It'd be all right because it's interesting, and I'm sorry.
And I got the witty wrap up.
Exactly. And that's why, because I've been avoiding stuff like this because, like I said, I purposely look up 911 calls and listen to them.
Yeah, I can't do
that. I read stuff like this, and I'm very interested in it. I love it, but it's messed up. It's nice to know that people have witnessed this stuff and have gotten through it.
Yeah.
I think that's very inspirational. So, okay, first one is someone ejected through the windshield. When I was 17, I went on a coming-of-age road trip with 3 of my friends. We decided to get on this epic cross-country trek to Tennessee for Bonnaroo. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
It's probably geography. We were all super amped, so we had written on the back of our window, honk if you're going to Bonnaroo. It has to be in Tennessee, right? Anyway. Lots of people were driving by us, honking and waving, but this one SUV in particular stuck out to me. It was full of pretty college-aged kids, and they were hanging out of their windows, hitting our car as they blasted by on the freeway, screaming and giggling. The entire thing was lighthearted and awesome. I felt a bit like I was in on some sort of movie montage, which, yeah, I mean, you're 17 years old, and, that sounds like so much fun, and you can totally get caught up in that stuff. They drove by us really fast. They were weaving in and out of traffic ahead of us, and then they were gone. About 15 minutes later, we see this huge dust cloud up ahead of us. We were trying to figure out what caused it, as it was such a gorgeous sunny day, and we were on a completely straight road with fields on either side. Then we see the same SUV from earlier laying upside down on the road with its tires spinning. We drove by so fast I barely registered what I saw. People were already stopping to help them, so my friend decided to keep going. But it was as if time froze. The girl who had been driving had been ejected through the windshield, and she was laying lifeless about 20 feet in front of the car. Someone else was half hanging out of one of the windows with their head twisted around.
Ugh.
All of their sleeping bags and shit was all over the place. I just started crying out of nowhere because I realized how quickly things can change. It was a pretty profound moment for a dumb 17-year-old.
That's horrible.
I know.
That tells you right there. Don't be stupid.
Seriously. And I see it it's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And, this cars, I had a friend die when I was 16, he was 17. He hit black ice, so really he wasn't being stupid.
Yeah.
But, it just really, it made me not scared of cars because I drive every day, but it made me very, aware.
Cautious.
Yeah. That anything can happen, and it's not even you. You are trusting everybody else on the road.
Dumb asses out there on the road, and they are everywhere.
Exactly. And they can cause your life to change in an instant.
Yes.
It doesn't have anything to do with you necessarily.
And I've got a 16-year-old who just got his car and his license, and every time he goes out, I freak out.
Yeah.
Every time.
I get that.
And I tell him, text me when you get there. And half the time he forgets, and then I get pissed off.
I understand, but I forget too. I understand though.
I know.
Yeah, Oh, gosh. I don't even want to think about my kids driving.
Then he's going to his dad's, driving on the freaking interstate. Ugh.
Oh, my gosh.
Hate it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
It does suck. Oh, well. Anyway.
Okay, so next horrible story. When I was in my early teens, my best friend's parents split up. I was over at his place, and he got the news that he wouldn't be able to see his dad anymore. His mom had won full custody and denied his father visitation through a mix of lies that I won't go into. He went into his parents' room, grabbed their gun, loaded it, put it up to his chin, and pulled the trigger. I was 6 feet away from him.
Oh my gosh.
That's fucked up.
That's horrible.
I know.
See, and that's another thing. You know, you got these parents that decide they don't like each other anymore. And the only people that it really hurts is the kids.
Exactly.
And they don't care.
Well,
why would
some parents don't care?
Well,
I'm not going to say that about
everybody.
Right.
But, you know, why would, and there might be extenuating circumstances. Obviously, we don't know. But
exactly.
But there are a lot of people that will use the children. There
are people like that, which is terrible. And, you know, and a lot of times divorce is absolutely fucking life-changing. It breaks up families. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. And these parents are involved in this life-changing thing in their life. And, you know, they're going through it too. And, you know, sometimes kids slip under the radar a little, you know, you don't think that they are affected as affected as they are, you know? So, I mean, you know, there's so many aspects to divorce, and it's just a lot of, and then there's some people that just don't care. They're done with this family and they just take.
Oh, yeah. I don't get that either.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Okay, so next one. When I was 5, I was in an ice cream parlor with my parents when my dad started acting really weird. He got up and started talking to this guy who just entered the place and then came to me and said I had to leave. I asked why, but he insisted and nudged me off my seat. As I was walking out, I heard a woman scream and then a lot of loud noises. My mom and dad were still in the place, and for whatever reason, I thought my mom was hurt. I couldn't stop crying. I remember trying to run in, but my mother's friend was holding me back. The police came, and everyone was told that one of the men sitting near us stabbed a lady up the block and then attempted to do the same thing at this place. The owner offered us free ice cream, but I felt too sick and shaken up to have any.
Who wants freaking ice cream after someone stabbed someone else?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's okay. Here's some ice cream. No.
That poor guy was probably like, do you want some ice cream? I don't know what the fuck just happened, but do you want it? He's probably traumatized. Oh my gosh, that's fucked up. And especially when you were 5.
Oh
my gosh.
That's horrible too, because that's like right around the age where you start remembering things.
And you know, especially you're in an ice cream parlor.
It's supposed to be like the greatest day ever.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so next one. When I was 11, oh my gosh, that's too young too. I witnessed a drive-by shooting. Well, I turned the corner, heard a gunshot, and then there was brain matter all over my face. I stood there in shock and silence, staring at the exploded back of this guy's head, and remained there until a paramedic showed up and moved me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
You know, this person was 11. I would probably do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I would right now.
Yeah.
I especially if it was on you.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh. That's fucked up. Oh my gosh. I couldn't imagine. Sorry, you guys.
Brandee sucked this week.
I know I do. I spent all day thinking how I couldn't suck, and everything just sucked. So I'm sorry. I'm bumming everybody out too. Misery loves company, right?
Yep.
Okay, so about 10 years ago now, I went on a call with my dad. He was in volunteer fire service at the time, and he acted as a battalion chief. He recently retired after 23 years. So we arrived on the scene to find 2 pastry trucks burning after a head-on collision. One driver suffered minor injury, but the other died from the collision. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So after the fire is put out and the 2 drivers are gone to the hospital, the crew separated the trucks. There was a van pancaked between the 2 trucks.
Oh.
No one had even been able to see any evidence of the 3rd vehicle until they separated the 2 trucks.
Oh my gosh.
The shock wears off and the EMS goes to work looking for any survivors. What they found was a family of 5, charred and crushed beyond almost all recognition. I sat in that car and watched 2 parents and 3 children extract from the crumpled wreck of the van. The image is still burned into my mind.
Oh, that's horrible.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. So next one. When I was a wee lad, we were riding a train in Mexico. The train was stopping when I saw a guy run down a hill towards the tracks. As the train stopped, we found out the guy was drunk and had stumbled down the hill and smashed his head on the edge of the metal corner of the train. Everyone went outside and was gathered around the guy, but I stayed inside and made my way to the window looking down where the guy was. His forehead was completely smashed in, and you could see the brain matter and bone fragments. There was a pool of blood mixed with dirt, and the man was twitching. What really freaked me out the most was his eyeballs were hanging out of where his eye sockets used to be. Some lady was fanning him, and eventually someone put some fabric over him. I sat there and watched the whole thing until the ambulance carried him off.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh. And see, it's stuff like that I would fucking look at and then regret it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. This one is heartbreaking. I mean, all of these are, like, don't get me wrong, but it's awful. I believed it was 4 or 5 years ago when I was driving behind an armored money truck in light rain, and it hydroplaned off the road and flipped onto a little girl waiting for a school bus. Aww. She didn't die immediately.
Oh.
Ugh, that's awful. Ugh, poor little girl.
Standing there minding her own business.
I know. Just waiting to go to school. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, next one. I was about 16 years old. It was a spring break week in high school, so I would say about the first week of April. The odd thing that year, it was really cold and it snowed in April. This was in North Texas, so any snow we get is a rare event, let alone in April. My friends and I decided to investigate some wooded areas around our neighborhood where there were some woods on the other side of the highway from us, and we'd never been back there before this, so it sounded fun. Stay out of the woods. We stumbled onto an open-faced barn in the middle of the woods. When we approached, we thought we saw someone standing under the opening. I'm extremely nearsighted and didn't like wearing my glasses back then, so all I could see was a huge black man standing under the barn. As we approached, we noticed he wasn't moving, so we called out to him. No response. We crept closer to him, all the while calling out but getting no response. Finally, we knew something was up, and we jumped the fence and walked up to him. Prior to this, on December 24th, a man left his truck running at a local truck stop and isn't heard of since. Police were called in, but no one had a clue as to what happened to the truck driver. So the big black man standing before me wasn't actually standing at all. He was hanging from the rafters of the barn, and the man before wasn't actually black. His blood had pooled under his skin and was rotting from where he was hanging. So they came upon a old hanging body. It's awful. Next one, I grew up an army brat. When I was 6, my dad was stationed in Syria. One day while walking through the local shops with my family, we saw a disturbing scene. I was on my dad's shoulders, so I was the first one to see it. There was a crowd surrounding 2 women who were laughing. I didn't know what they were laughing about, so being a 6-year-old little girl, I started to laugh along with them until I saw what was going on. One woman was holding a girl around my age, so a 6-year-old, by the hair, while the other is beating her to a pulp with a glass milk bottle. The girl's face was swollen and bloody, and a couple teeth were chipped, and she kept sobbing and screaming. Turns out the woman swinging her by the hair was her mom, and the one with the bottle was her aunt. Out of the crowd of around 30 people, my mom was the only one who tried to step in, but was stopped by local men for her safety. That girl's face often enters my mind, and I wonder what her fate was.
What the fuck? People
Seriously.
are standing around watching?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Where was that at?
Syria.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's terrible. When I was 7, my best friend and I were taking turns jumping off a high dive diving board at our swimming pool. My friend was standing on the board. When she went to adjust her goggles, she slipped and fell off the board onto the concrete pavement below. It was about a 20-foot fall, and I just remember the crack sound she made when she hit the pavement. Luckily, she ended up with only a broken collarbone, but the sound and the fear that attacked me the second I saw her slip still haunts me 15 years later.
Oh.
That's awful.
Well, at least she survived.
Yeah. I mean, ugh, but could you imagine hearing? Ugh.
No.
So next one, when I was 13, my dad and I were driving to the mall on the highway. We were just approaching a bend and saw a huge explosion with a mushroom cloud just over the top of the on-ramp. My dad kept driving, and we saw a semi-tractor on fire. A man jumped out of the cab and fell in the middle of the road, then burned to death. The next day, the local paper had it on the front page with a picture of the man's burned corpse half covered with a body bag. There was a lot of controversy since people were enraged at the picture on the front page of their newspaper. To this day, every time I drive by that spot on the highway, I remember watching the man burn to death. He fell out of his truck, started sprinting around, then fell to the ground in flames. Ugh. Awful. Next one, I joined my volunteer fire department when I was 16 years old. Shortly after, I became a certified first responder in my state and eventually a nationally registered EMT. Only one call really bothered me. I was driving just outside my district when the pager went off for a facial trauma. I turned around and raced down the road, and I was the first one to the scene and went up to the porch where the patient was sitting. While cutting up a tree, his chainsaw kicked back and tore through his face. It tore his lips off of his face, broke his orbital bone, and narrowly missed his eye. He survived the ordeal. The worst part was that his son watched the whole thing go down.
Aww.
Oh, that's awful. Okay, next one. I was sitting in a seat in the second level of the Superdome at the Saints game. The seat was in the end zone where the second and third levels are closest. A drunk third leveler kept dropping his lighter on us, and we'd throw it back up to him. After halftime, the lighter dropped, followed by the third leveler. He kind of grazed our backs as he fell out of the third level into the second level seats. I turned around to see a bunch of blood and what I'm pretty sure were his teeth. I can't talk. One of the craziest things I've seen in the dome. That's fucked up. Okay, so my last terrible story. I used to work at a seafood restaurant. The back of the restaurant faced the water, and the front faced a residential neighborhood. One day, police were all over the back of the restaurant, and we found out a guy had fallen off his boat, hit his head, and died. As the paramedics were bringing his body out of the water, this woman comes out of her house at the front of the restaurant and starts screaming for the cops to help her. She lost her son. Her son was about 3 or 4, and she thinks he walked out of the house and was afraid he went to the water and drowned. So now the entire neighborhood is on foot looking for this child for over an hour when someone looks in the car in the driveway and sees the kid. It was a 90-degree day, and this was in the middle of the afternoon, so the car was extremely hot. They opened the door and took him out of the back seat. He was completely lifeless, and they were never able to revive him. The mother had fallen asleep on accident, and the baby woke up, got out of his bed, and walked outside. He went into the car, and they had child-locked doors, so he couldn't get out and ended up dying of heat stroke. Seeing them pull his body out of the back seat and watching his mother collapse screaming will most likely stick with me forever. It was horrible. Yeah,
You're right. That sucked.
I know, and that was actually another. I saw a couple of kids being left in cars on hot days and dying this week too. That was another thing I came across. So, yeah, those were my shitty stories for this week. So sorry, but
Such a bummer.
I like reading those, and I had a ton more too, but it's all right. I don't want to bum anybody out anymore.
All right.
I do want to go over. When it was Friday the 13th, we actually recorded on a Friday the 13th, and I looked everywhere for things that had happened on Friday the 13th that were like creepy, because I really hadn't heard anything happening on Friday the 13th that was actually really creepy. It was just, legend, I guess. So I finally found some kind of kind of coincidentally creepy things that have happened on Friday the 13th. So I wanted to go over those. So back in 2010, the Mirror reported that a boy who happened to be 13 years old was lucky to suffer only minor burns when struck by lightning while enjoying an afternoon air show in England. Even freakier, the lightning reportedly struck at exactly 1:13 p.m. or 13:13 in military time. So that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
What are the odds? Do you know what the odds are of being struck by lightning? Isn't it like astronomical?
I think so.
Taryn, it was this morning. She actually was like, "I'm scared of like lightning." She's like, I don't want to get hit by lightning," and I'm like, it's not likely that that's going to happen, but that's crazy.
Never know.
So, on another thing that happened, on October 13th, 1972, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 crashed into the snowy Andes while on its way to Chile. The flight contained 45 passengers, including members of an Old Christians rugby team. Only 16 passengers survived. 9 died in the crash, several others from injury and extreme conditions the days following, and an avalanche took 8 more. The rest infamously resorted to consuming the frozen bodies of those who perished in order to stay alive for more than the 2 months it took for help to reach them. After realizing the search parties had ceased looking for them, 2 of the rugby players made a 10-day journey and finally returned with assistance 72 days after the crash. So wasn't there's a movie about that.
I think, yeah.
Isn't it called Alive?
I think so.
So that happened the crash happened on Friday the 13th. Okay, so next one. Oh, this one happened on Friday the 13th too, which if you are into true crime, you've probably heard of this one. But nearly 40 residents at an apartment complex in Brooklyn admitted to overhearing the attack and murder of Susan Kitty Genovese on March 13th, 1964. The only problem, none of them reported it to the police while it was happening. Kitty ultimately died of stab wounds. The authorities later reported she likely could have survived if someone would have called. Psychologists now refer to this as the bystander effect. Which I heard, there's a documentary of her murder because, there's 40 residents that witnessed this. And I haven't watched the documentary, but I heard that the apartment complex that they're talking about was mostly, like, the people that resided in that building were mostly Holocaust survivors. So that's why they think nobody said anything, because these people have gone through hell.
You keep to yourself.
Exactly. And I heard someone kind of poke their head out and was like, "You let that girl alone," and it was just kind of like, you don't get involved. It's fucking horrible. But so that happened on Friday the 13th as well. Next one, former North Wales bus conductor Bob Renfrey claimed multiple issues happening on Friday the 13th over the years, including 4 car crashes, losing his job, falling into a river, and crashing his motorcycle. His wife even tried to schedule his funeral for a Friday the 13th, but all the local undertakers were too busy that day. She believes he would have found humor in it. So I guess that's something. Okay, next one. When a daredevil, Sam Patch, made his attempt at leaping over Genesee River Falls on November 13th, 1829, it was sadly also his last stunt. Sam had previously had success about a month before at Niagara Falls, but reports from his final leap claimed he appeared out of sorts, probably inebriated when he jumped. So
that's nice.
Yeah, that happened on Friday the 13th. In 2006, residents of Buffalo, New York, woke up to find their town blanketed by Lake Storm Aphid, covering them in over 20 inches of snow. As the storm continued, up to 3.5 feet of snow piled up in parts of the city. The initial storm caused 3 people to lose their lives, 2 from automobile accidents and 1 from a falling tree branch, while 400,000 homes went without electricity. Nearby Toronto remained completely unaffected by the weather. That happened on Friday the 13th.
Okay.
New York resident Daz Baxter, also afraid of bad luck following him around on Friday the 13th in August 1976, that he opted to stay home. Unfortunately, his plan tragically backfired when the floor beneath his bed caved in.
Oh my god.
And he plummeted down 6 floors to his death.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That is horrible.
That is a bad Friday the 13th.
That's a bad day, period.
That's my worst nightmare ever. I think. That is horrible. Oh my gosh. Poor guy. Okay, next one. In August 2003, Michelle and Gary Doherty, I think, nuptials were plagued by a swarm of wasps that relentlessly attacked their guests. One even flew right at Michelle's wedding gown when she arrived to walk down the aisle. Aww. That's awful. Poor people. Now, would you take that as a good sign or a bad sign on your wedding day? Because they said when it rains, it's supposed to be good, right?
Well, that's just mothers telling their daughters that are getting married when it's raining that, oh, it's okay, it's good luck.
Oh, okay, so a swarm of wasps, probably not.
No, so. I would say no.
Okay. Next one, all of London suffered from the bombings of World War II, but King George VI was personally attacked by German troops when they began dropping right onto his palace in September 1940. His daughter, now Queen Elizabeth II, was already safely tucked away at Windsor Castle. So that happened on Friday the 13th. In January 2012, the Acosta Concordia cruise ship collided with a submerged rock that caused it to partially sink before collapsing hours later. Over 30 passengers and members of the crew died aboard. I think I remember hearing about that. I don't remember, but yeah, that happened on Friday the 13th. Reports from CNBC claim that at least $700 million are lost by businesses when it's Friday the 13th due to folks letting their superstitious sides sway them from travel and major purchases. So
I've heard that before.
Have you?
Yeah.
I think we may have talked about that. Last one on here, scientists have had their eye on the Apophis asteroid for years with concern that it might actually collide with the Earth on April 13th, 2029, which will also happen to be a Friday. Luckily, NASA has come to the conclusion that it's more likely to just get very close to us before looping back around our orbit. So that's kind of like a prediction for a Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy. So those were mine, and like I said, I tried to find these when it was actually Friday the 13th, but I just happened to come across this. I think it was on Facebook, and I was like, oh, there's some. So there you go. It's about, when was that? Probably in June, I think.
I don't remember.
So yeah, it was a couple months late, but there you go. So yeah, those are my stories. So I hope you guys are still listening, because that wasn't very uplifting.
No, it wasn't at all.
But that's why we have
the witty wrap-up.
Yay, witty wrap-up.
I did my witty wrap-up on funny dad stories.
Yay.
All right. The family was viewing old slides, and one flashed on the screen that caught everyone's attention. My father, wearing his favorite golf shirt, was holding me at the tender age of 3 weeks. Oh. The look on his face told all. "There's my prized possession," my father said. Touched, I smiled at him as he continued, "I wonder whatever happened to that golf shirt."
Aww, that's horrible.
My uncle was driving to a hockey game with his 2 sons when their car hit a low-flying duck. After absorbing the shock of what just happened, Uncle Mike broke the silence with, "Well, there's a bird that didn't live up to his name." That's just stupid.
That's such a dad thing to say.
In the frozen foods department of our local grocery store, I saw a man shopping with his son. As I walked by, he checked something off his list, then whispered conspiratorially to his son, "You know, if we really mess this up, we'll never have to do it again."
Oh, fuck you.
He's probably right.
He is, but yeah, he is, because that's exactly what I do. I'm like, damn it, I'll just do it myself. Get out of my way.
After an explosive argument with our mother, my little brother pasted a sign reading, "I hate mom." Oh. on the door to his room and slammed it shut. My dad, a school psychologist, came home to this standoff. "I'll take care of it," he said, then went into my brother's room. Minutes later, Dad came out. "He doesn't hate you anymore," he reassured. Sure enough, my brother had crossed out Mom on his sign and now read, "I hate Dad."
What? I wonder what he said.
I don't know. It doesn't say.
He's probably like, "Why don't you just cross it off? We can still hate Mom. Why don't you just cross it off and write Dad, and that'll mean Mom?" Probably like, all right.
When my dad ran out of gas, he called Mom to pick him up in her car. They went to a gas station, filled a can, and returned to his car. After a few minutes, he got into her car again. "We need to go back to the gas station," he said. "1 gallon wasn't enough?" Mom asked. "It would have been if I'd put it in the right car."
What?
He put the gas in the wrong car.
What, did he put it in her car?
No, he filled up someone else's gas tank.
I don't get it.
They drove up to the wrong car.
How does that happen?
I don't. Have you ever walked up to a car that wasn't yours?
Where did he say he was on the side of the road?
No.
Where was he?
I
don't get it.
It doesn't say where it's at. Anyway.
I'm sorry I messed it up. I don't get it. You're
so pretty.
What the fuck? I'm sorry.
You ruined the whole thing.
I tend to do that.
Dad is old school. He keeps all his money in the underwear drawer. One day, I bought him a personal safe in the shape of a paint can with a false bottom so he could keep his money in the workshop. Will you stop laughing?
Sorry.
Now I have to start all over again.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Dad is old school. He keeps all his money. He keeps all his money in the underwear drawer. One day, I bought him a personal safe in the shape of a paint can with a false bottom so he could keep his money in the workshop instead. Later, I asked Mom if he was using it. "Oh, yes, he put his money in it the same day," she said. "No burglar would think to look on the work shelf," I gloated. "They won't have to," Mom replied. "He keeps the paint can in his underwear drawer."
Aw, he doesn't get it either. I don't feel as bad.
I was on my way out of the house to meet with a cantankerous client, and I was dreading it. The look on my face must have given me away because my 4-year-old daughter asked what was wrong. "I'm going to meet a woman who always yells at Daddy," I told her. "Oh," she said, "say hi to Mom."
Did I ever tell you when it was when Tyrion was really small. It was like she was just starting to talk, and we had friends over, and her daughter and Tyrion were playing Barbies, and she's older than Tyrion. She's like 6 years older than Tyrion, but she's always played with her, and they've always gotten along really well. And we were standing in the kitchen, and her daughter comes in, and she said, Tyrion had a boy Barbie and a girl Barbie, and I immediately was like, oh my gosh, she was making them kiss or something. She said that Tyrion had the boy Barbie and the girl Barbie, and she was going, "Shut up, Aaron! Shut up, Aaron!" I almost felt bad, but it was hilarious. We laughed forever. It was the funniest thing. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, that's funny. It's so funny what they pick up on,
I know.
You say other things besides that. But you must say it an awful lot.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think I mean, maybe, but I didn't remember saying that. I don't know. It's funny.
My father was completely lost in the kitchen and never ate unless someone prepared a meal for him. When Mother was ill, however, he volunteered to go to the supermarket for her. She sent him off with a carefully numbered list of 7 items. Dad returned shortly, very proud of himself, and proceeded to unpack the grocery bags. He had 1 bag of sugar, 2 dozen eggs, 3 hams, 4 boxes of detergent, 5 boxes of crackers, 6 eggplants, and 7 green peppers.
No!
Aw, poor father.
Oh my gosh, that was the best thing I've ever heard.
It took you a minute too, didn't it?
No, I knew where you were going. I mean, well, the first one.
Yeah, the first couple.
Yeah, you're like,
and then
okay,
you're like,
that makes sense. But then, what'd you say, 6 eggplants? That's hilarious. That's great. I love it.
One night about 10 p.m., I answered the phone and heard, "Dad, we want to stay out late. Is that okay?" "Sure," I answered, "as long as you called." When I hung up, my wife asked who was on the phone. "One of the boys," I replied. "I gave them permission to stay out late." "Not our boys," she said. "They're both downstairs in the basement."
Oh, no.
You told someone else's kids, "Oh, sure, you can stay out."
Oh, my gosh.
And that is just like a dad, too.
Oh,
to
yeah.
not even know his own kids are in the house.
Yeah. And to not know who he's fucking talking to on the phone when he says he could stay out late.
Shortly before our 25th anniversary, my husband sent 25 long stem roses to me at my office. A few days later, I plucked all the petals and dried them. On the night of our anniversary, I spread the petals over the bed and lay on top of them wearing only a negligee. As I'd hoped, I got a reaction from my husband. When he saw me, he shouted, "Are those potato chips?" Never mind the half-naked woman.
On top of them.
That's when you know you've been married for a long time.
She's probably like, what the fuck? No, they're not fucking potato chips. But please have some.
On the day I received my learner's permit, my father agreed to take me out for a driving lesson. With a big grin, he hopped in behind the driver's seat. "Why aren't you sitting up front on the passenger side?" I asked. "Kirsten, I've been waiting for this ever since you were a little girl," Dad replied. "Now it's my turn to sit back here and kick the seat."
That's a very dad thing to do.
I asked my brother-in-law, the father of 4 boys, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have kids? "Yes," he said, "just not these 4. And my last one. No one is more cautious than a first-time parent. After our daughter was big enough to ride on the back of my bicycle, I bought a special carrier with a seat belt and got her a little helmet. The day of the first ride, I put her in the seat, double-checked all the equipment, wheeled the bike to the end of the driveway, carefully looked both ways, and swinging my leg up over the crossbar, kicked her right in the chin.
Oh, no.
Poor baby.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's hilarious.
And that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for listening again. Hopefully you're still with us after my stories. But look up our Facebook page and join our group, like our page, go on iTunes and rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find us on Stitcher, Google Play, Podcast Addict, iTunes, obviously. What are some other ones that you can think of? Spotify. You can find us on YouTube if you want. Just look us up. And again, thank you for listening, and email us your stories. We still want to hear those. So GhoulsNightOutPodcast@gmail.com. You can tell us anything. You can tell us your funny dad story, or, things that you witnessed that traumatized you. I'd love to hear it. EMS stories. Those are so interesting. And I love hearing that people survive crazy stuff. So email us your stories, any stories. GhoulsNightOutPodcast@gmail.com, and we will talk to you next week.
Later.
Bye.